Hi everyone, welcome to our latest video. Today we're going to talk to you about the cost of living in the UK, so a really important topic for anyone who's relocating here. We're going to run through the average cost of rent, average cost of other bills, average cost of healthcare in the UK, and the average cost of education in the UK. Okay, the first thing to consider when thinking about the cost of living in the UK is the cost of renting a place to live. The vast majority of IMGs, when they first come to the UK, rent a property before thinking about buying, maybe once they've been here for a year or two. And it is usually the part of a doctor's expenses that takes up the biggest chunk. So it's really important to consider. Location is a big factor in this. So I think there's actually a bit of a misconception that the north is considerably cheaper than the south, where in actual fact it's probably more that if you want to live in a big city and in a kind of urban area, that's what tends to be more expensive. So yes, London is probably the most expensive place, but also follow that up with Birmingham, Manchester. They're also quite expensive places to live. Not unaffordable by any means, but keep in mind that if you've got a big family, you may want to consider renting outside of a city and commuting in, or just living and working both outside of a major city, as the cost of living outside is considerably cheaper. Rental prices, again, it's difficult to kind of pinpoint without knowing individual circumstances. Flats, one bedroom flats, maybe £500 a month. Houses, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses, up to £1,200, £1,300 a month on average. But again, very much depends on whereabouts you are in the country and the personal factors for you, what kind of things you're looking for in a property. Okay, so the cost of renting a place in the UK actually doesn't usually include utilities and all of the bills that you'll need to pay on top of that. So, major things to consider. Gas and electricity can usually be obtained from the same provider and tend to cost around £60 to £100 per month, depending on the time of year. Obviously more expensive in the winter when you've got your heating on. You'll also need a water supplier. Water in the UK can be obtained via a meter or on fixed prices. Usually costs around £40 to £50 per month. Council tax, so that's your tax on your property, pays for things like your roads and all that kind of thing, bin collections and those bits and pieces as well. It depends on the size of the property that you live in and the area that you live in, but usually around £100 to £120 per month. Television, you do have to pay what's called a television license in the UK to watch the terrestrial BBC channels. That's £150 a year. You can pay it on a direct debit, about 12-13 quid per month, and that's outside of any other subscriptions like Netflix, which is about £10 a month, and Sky cable TV, that kind of thing, £50 to £100 a month, depending on whatever your packages are. Okay, so the next part to consider is travel expenses, and obviously this is going to vary massively depending on the area of the country you live in and how far it is from your place of work to get there. The vast majority of people in the UK, we did a blog post about this recently, the vast majority do commute into work, and the vast majority within that do use public transport. Buses are probably the cheaper option, £50 to £100 a month for bus passes, certainly in the southwest and other parts of the country that I've lived in. Rail passes, tube passes for London, a bit more expensive, usually £100 to £200 a month. Again, massively varies depending on how many stops and how far away you live from your place of work. Obviously, you've got the option of buying a car as well. Well, again, it depends on the price of your car, of course, but it's another factor to consider. Things like paying an annual MOT, road tax, the cost of upkeep of your car, and of course petrol and things like that too. Okay, so the cost of healthcare in the UK, it is widely perceived to be free. Obviously, international doctors have to pay the immigration health surcharge to access that. It's about £400 per year. Gives you your healthcare free of charge at the point of access from that point onwards. There are a few exceptions to that, however. Dental care, there's actually quite an undersupply of NHS dentists in the UK, so generally people pay for private dental treatments. Eye care as well, you may have to pay to go to an optician's to get your eyes checked and glasses and things like that. Prescriptions as well are about £8 to £9, but there are exemptions to those if you fall into certain categories. Pregnant women, older people, there's various exemptions to look up as well. Okay, so the final factor is the cost of education in the UK. Now, most schools in our country are publicly funded, so they are entirely free from the age of 5 years onwards. If you have younger children and you want to send them to a preschool or a nursery, it does vary depending on the standard and where you want to send them for how many days a week and such. Usually, if you wanted to send them full-time, it's about £1,000 per month to get them to attend preschool. But again, that varies. People use it differently depending on their family circumstances. So, in summary, the cost of living in the UK is not cheap, but fortunately the salaries that doctors can obtain make it very affordable. You will be on one of the higher salary brackets compared to the average salary in the UK. Average salary in the UK across the whole country is about 28,000. So you'll be well above that, and you shouldn't be worrying about the cost of living here. Obviously, if you've got big families, I'm sure it will be a consideration. Everyone's got their own circumstances, but generally speaking, you should be absolutely fine in terms of your living expenses. As always, if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them across. Gabby's always answering queries and responding to you guys. So yeah, we'll see you next time.